Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us tonight for tonight's webinar, The Intersection of Lifestyle and Mental Health. And thank you to our panelists for being here tonight. I'm Miranda Drake, tonight's moderator and leader of the Raleigh North Christian Center, otherwise known as RNCC, Healthy Lifestyles Ministry, where the pastor is Dr. Jeffrey Chapman Sr. and First Lady Sandy Chapman. And as also joining us to moderate tonight's Q&A will be the Healthy Lifestyles cheerleader, Maxine Stewart. Before we dive in our panel discussion, I'll read the medical disclaimer and introduce tonight's panelists. The medical disclaimer reads as follows. By participating in or viewing this webinar, you understand and acknowledge that any information provided by Raleigh North Christian Center, RNCC, Healthy Lifestyles Ministry, RNCC, and or any of its guests or other ministries at RNCC is for informational purposes only. Please consult with your healthcare provider for all medical advice. RNCC is not legally, financially, or otherwise responsible in any way for any information provided and disclaims any warranties and liability associated with the information provided. Now we're going to move on to our panelists. Tonight we have Dr. Tamika Day, a pediatrician and certified integrative nutrition health coach. She is founder and CEO of Flourish Health Coaching, LLC, where she helps women and families become healthier through faith, food, and lifestyle changes. She is the author of 21 Days to a Prosperous Mindset, a faith-based devotional, and she is also host of a new podcast, The Wholeness Walk, on Apple and Spotify, which inspires and encourages listeners to walk in health, prosperity, wholeness, and purpose in God. Dr. Day is wife to Dr. Gerard Day, a vascular surgeon and mother of 3. Our next panelist is Minister James Freeman, a staff pastor for more than 15 years at Raleigh North Christian Center, where he serves as a part of the RNCC executive team. He also oversees the work of the RNCC Healthy Lifestyles Ministry and is the liaison between the Healthy Lifestyles Ministry and the RNCC executive team. Minister Freeman was also a part of the formation of RNCC's Compassion Care Ministry, a ministry that reaches out to those who have suffered loss or illness. Next, we have Danielle Oates, who is the president and founder of Advocacy and Consulting Solutions, where she channels her passion for helping and assisting people who can't speak for themselves. She is a licensed clinical mental health counselor with extensive experience in clinical counseling and crisis intervention, and serves as a domestic violence and sexual assault counselor at the YWCA. Danielle also collaborates with nonprofit and community-based organizations to provide access to mental health services for underserved populations. She holds a master's degree in mental health counseling from Cambridge College, a bachelor's degree in criminal justice from Westfield State College, and is a certified parent advocate for children through the Federation of Children with Special Needs in Boston, Massachusetts. Our next panelist is Tasha Terry, MSNRN, a native of Flint, Michigan, and she moved here to the Triangle about 20 years ago. Tasha has practiced nursing for 30 years in various areas and has a master's degree in nursing education and is board certified in medical surgical nursing. Next, we have Micah Tuma, who is a licensed marriage and family therapist with a master's of science in marriage and family therapy from Mercer University. He specializes in couples therapy, family dynamics, multicultural counseling, and the treatment of anxiety, depression, perfectionism, grief and loss, low self-esteem, adjustment challenges, and trauma. With experience across diverse therapeutic settings, Michael approaches mental health with the same level of importance as physical well-being. He is dedicated to helping clients build meaningful relationships and identify resources that support their goals and growth beyond therapy. He also collaborates closely with clients to help them find and sustain their voice and identity through life transitions. Next, we have Reverend Dr. Deshaun Williams, who is a best-selling, award-winning author, keynote speaker, and mental health advocate, dedicated to helping others embrace purpose and walk in truth. He is the founder of Write Your Way, LLC, a Christian-based company. Dr. Williams also offers powerful insights on resilience, leadership, and self-discovery. His work centers on authorship, emotional healing, and self-love. So, as we begin our conversation tonight on mental health or mental fitness, it's crucial first to understand the signs of mental health challenges to look for. Recognizing early symptoms and can make a world of difference in seeking timely help and support. Research suggests that some of the top mental health challenges many people are facing are depression, anxiety, stress, and self-harm. So let's talk about these common mental health issues. So I want to turn to you first, Danielle, and thank you so much for joining us tonight. So, what are some of the signs and symptoms of anxiety, depression, stress, and self-harm?
Well, I want to thank you guys for having me. It's a pleasure and a blessing to be here. So, anxiety and depression, what are some of those signs? So, with anxiety and depression, they're kind of like they're sisters and brothers. They look alike, they're somewhat in the same family, but then they have their own symptoms and frequencies and duration. So, I'll talk about anxiety first because that is the most known mental health condition in the world that most people have or will encounter or experience themselves or with a loved one. So, with anxiety, what that looks like is racing thoughts, rumination, which is having the same thought over and over again, heart racing, you may be fidgety, you have excessive worry, you're tense, you may feel some muscle tension, you may feel some stomach aches that are not from eating bad food, but from like butterflies in your stomach, a lack of focus, a lack of motivation, and sometimes you will withdraw from normal activities that you're used to engaging with. So that's what anxiety kind of looks like. Now with depression is more like you're sad, you have low energy, you are not engaging in the things that you typically have brought you pleasure in the past. You're irritated, you may be irritable, angry, you may have mood swings. You may withhold from normal daily activities and functioning things with people or with your job or with responsibilities with family members or paying bills. So that's what depression will kind of look like. It's a withdrawnness, it's a sadness. You have to be very careful with depression because a lot of times with clinical depression, it doesn't look like the person who's laying in the bed all day. You may be going to work and you may be paying bills and you may be engaging with family, but you feel the same way a person feels as if they're laying in the bed and they don't want to come away from that.
Right. So, Danielle, when people are struggling with mental health, a mental health challenge, and are trying to deal with it on their own, how can they and others tell when it's necessary to seek professional help for themselves or a loved one, and it's time to stop trying to do it on their own?
That's a great question, Miranda. So when it's time to get help is typically when it's interfering with your daily functioning.
Mm-hmm.
You're eating, you're sleeping, your relationship with others, your attendance at work, withdrawing from family members and loved ones, isolating yourself, even if you're in the same household with family members, but you're in your room a lot. You'll see this a lot with teenagers, staying away from people. Anxiety is a big one as far as the different type of anxieties. So you'll have social anxiety. You may have phobias about things. You may have a panic attack, selective mutism, which is typically found in children where there's an anxiousness in them that doesn't allow them to speak freely. It could be debilitating for them to want to share or talk or communicate. So some of the signs are, hey, the things that you used to do before, now you're withdrawing, now you're pulling back from work. Like I said earlier, your attendance at work, your ability to show up, your energy, your motivation, wanting to do things, being responsible. If you're a person who's head of a household, your responsiveness to family members, going to work, being able to show up at work on time, participating in work, being at work on time. So those are some of the things that someone might be struggling with. And the other thing I want to say too is your appearance. So a lot of times you'll struggle with your appearance, meaning your hygiene, wanting to dress in a presentable way, as far as wanting to get up and get dressed and wanting to engage with family members or wanting to engage with work.
So basically, when you see yourself kind of getting out of your old routine and your life is just changing because of what you're going through, it's time to seek help.
Absolutely.
Okay, so now I want to turn to Michael. Welcome, Michael. Thank you for being here. We know that coping strategies and the support of loved ones play an essential role in navigating mental health difficulties. So, can you tell us what are some of the healthy and effective coping strategies for managing stress, anxiety, and depression? And how do these coping strategies differ between men, women, and maybe adolescents?
That's a great question. And I want to also thank you for allowing me to be here today to kind of share some helpful information to everyone that's tuned in. So, to get right to it, I kind of want to share a few things and kind of break it down so that way people can get a good understanding of what will be helpful for them in regards to coping skills. So, of course, what people are familiar with when it comes to coping skills and strategies is, different activities. So, that may be riding a bike, rock climbing, playing cards, video games for certain people, different activities that you can do to enjoy yourself or kind of get your mind off of certain things. Another thing is that people may not be as familiar with is having awareness of what's going on for you, as well as your validation of the emotions and the concerns that you're experiencing.
Right.
It's one thing to not push them away, but kind of know that, hey, in this situation, this concern is I got overlooked for a job position and I feel embarrassed or disappointed. Identifying those emotions and concerns, that way you can kind of understand where you want to go from that point on.
Right.
Another part is understanding your environment. It's really important for you to get an idea of and making sure you validate what you're going through. It doesn't mean that you can't hold yourself accountable, but you want to make sure you point out to yourself, hey, this is what I'm going through. I have had these particular, generational traumas and things that I've experienced through my childhood and things like that. So that way you can be aware of what you're experiencing. Another part is understanding what's in your control. It's really important to keep in mind that there are a lot of things that we do want to change, but they're not within our control financially, they're not within our control physically or different aspects of our lives. So we don't want to put those false expectations that we should be able to make changes in the areas that aren't particularly something that we have the control over. Also claiming your limitations, understanding that, hey, I will do something, but it doesn't mean I want to do something. I can do something, but I don't know if I'm able to do something. Being understanding of those limitations as well. And I know you got an idea of self-care and everyone hears a lot about that, with mental health being a lot more appropriate to talk about these days. But again, it's not just doing the activities I named earlier. It's also finding ways to replenish yourself emotionally, as well as spiritually, as well as physically. So keeping those things kind of re-energize yourself. And lastly, keeping in mind what your timing is looking like. Some of the things that are going on currently could be a crisis situation as well as a non-crisis situation. Understanding what your supports are, as well as who you can call on and resources that you have. And keep in mind, that there's other things like practicing these coping skills. We've learned, not so helpful habits that we use to respond to situations. And we call those negative coping skills. Positive coping skills, we also have to practice those as well. And sometimes it's good to practice them when you're not necessarily in a heightened state.
Right. So it seems to me like a big part of coping skills is it's just knowing yourself, knowing yourself and knowing what works for you and choosing some things that work for you to create a strategy.
Absolutely. One of the things I want to share really quickly is with that, there's a specificity. Everyone's unique. And it shouldn't mean that, well, because I'm a woman or a man, I should like these particular types of coping skills. Everyone has different values or different things they like to do to relax themselves and enjoy. You can have your own thing that you like to do as an adolescent or as well as a man or a woman. Just identify what that is. And that will help you kind of figure out where to go.
Right. Thank you, Michael. So now I just want to turn to Tasha. Thanks for joining us, Tasha. Quite often when people are stressed, they might overlook the impact it's having in other areas of their life. Can you talk about some of the ways that stress manifests physically in our health, especially long-term chronic stress, and what role can exercise and nutrition play in managing depression, stress, and anxiety?
Hi, everybody, and thanks for having me. And it is a wonderful privilege and a pleasure to collaborate for Mental Health Wellness Month with my family of RNCC. So this is a two-part question, so I'm going to answer the first one. So some physical symptoms of stress include headaches, You can have respiratory or breathing issues by having hyperventilation where you're breathing fast because, as Danielle said, you can have a panic attack, and that is a physical outcome of having a panic attack when you hyperventilate. As well as you can have some sweating and heart palpitations. Those are some of the things that she talked about with anxiety, but those are the physical manifestations of your anxiety. You can also have some aches and pains as well. So sometimes when you present to the doctor with these aches and pains and they can't really diagnose you, it could be a result of anxiety to the different levels or whatever it is that she spoke about. And also digestive problems. And this is huge because you can have some nausea, indigestion, ulcers. People who have high anxiety or stress usually have ulcers. You can have constipation, bloating, or diarrhea. And the constipation, indigestion, and nausea can be related to a lack of appetite or an increase in appetite where you're overeating and overindulging in unhealthy foods and bad habits for yourself. So the psychological symptoms of stress include anxiety, fear, anger, aggressiveness, sadness, irritability, frustrated, and depressed. And those also lead to the physical symptoms too. And so nutrition. So it is important that we eat healthy and we maintain a balance of like certain things that protect our brain, like the omega fatty acids. Those can be a healthy. So it is very wise, and research has supported that a high nutritional value meals, it helps with the brain. It helps supply your body with nutrients to give you energy. They give you an energy that's a long-lasting energy, like lean meats of vegetables and fruits that can give you protein as opposed to a high processed diet. Now, the gold standard over everything is exercise. Exercise has been proven through many researches that it is a way to combat anxiety, stress, and depression. So why is that? Because as we exercise, our body releases hormones, and people know them as the happy hormones. And they are dopamine, which plays a role in our mood, kidney function, and heart rate. It also, we have serotonin. The primary role in serotonin is for our memory and fear and digestion. So when we exercise, some of those problems that come from the physical of stress, you can see how exercise can alleviate and combat that. And endorphins. Endorphins play a role in pain. And I can say for myself, I'm an avid exerciser. And I always say running, because I'm a runner that's about to retire because I don't reach the AARP group, but I'm still running strong because I just had to redo some things. But as I used to run, especially in my 20s and 30s, I noticed that I used to tell people that running can take away emotional pain. And those endorphins release, and it does something good to your body and is very beneficial. And then also oxytocin. Oxytocin is a hormone that plays a role in trust and relaxation. So as we run and exercise, we release these hormones to our body, because what stress does is it triggers our sympathetic nervous system, which puts us in fight or flight. And if we stay in fight and flight for a long time, we develop chronic anxiety, which can in turn turn into health problems like hypertension, which is high blood pressure, cardiovascular disease, and chronic anxiety. I practice in cardiovascular, and I see a lot of people that come in with chronic illnesses. They mostly always almost suffer from some form of anxiety and depression.
That's awesome. So now to follow up with that, I want to turn to Dr. Day. So many people struggle to make and maintain a healthy lifestyle changes. So Dr. Day, what are some of the practical, actionable steps that individuals can take to integrate wellness practices into their daily routines, particularly when dealing with mental health challenges like stress, burnout, and anxiety, and depression?
Good evening. Thank you for having me. It is a blessing to be a part of this panel to discuss, mental health, especially in the month of May, which is Mental Health Awareness Month. So it's a great discussion. But that's a great question, Miranda. So just in general, let's just take mental issues away. As busy adults or, teens, it's hard enough to maintain a healthy lifestyle, period, right? So that's if, we're so busy working and, taking care of kids and maybe taking care of elder parents or loved ones, right? And that causes this constraint on your time. So a lot of times you lose focus on prioritizing yourself and your health. Now factor in someone that has mental health issues, right? So that makes it even difficult. Now there's another thing that you're trying to add to this daily activity and daily routine that they're already struggling with, maybe stress or burnout or anxiety or depression. So for that, I like to say, just keep it simple, right? So don't become overwhelmed or stressed out. Oh, I have to, run 5 miles every single day, or I have to, eat an extremely healthy diet every single day. And I have to, do all these things, like you're trying to check off, all these things on a checklist, which it can add to you being more anxious and feeling more overwhelmed. And nothing ever happens. So I like to say, just start with one thing, whether it's you're going to focus on getting 64 ounces of water every single day, but you're going to be consistent with it. And the goal is to do it for at least 21 days straight, because studies have shown that if you do something for at least 21 days, you can create a new habit. So that will be the goal, right? Or maybe your goal is to do deep breathing for about 5 minutes, right? Where you're intentional about breathing, you're taking time to slow down and to relax. That also can help if you are dealing with stress or anxiety. Maybe it is you want to focus on reading your scriptures every single day, right? So you read 3 scriptures daily, though. But the goal is to find something that you can incorporate into your life, but do it every single day. So don't make a goal or a habit of doing something that's so, extravagant where you can't keep up with it. And so, one thing, I just want to say that remembering God's word tells us to cast all our care upon him, for he careth for us. And that's 1 Peter 5:7. So we do have to be intentional about giving these cares to him, right? Taking time for yourself, taking time away from all of the stress and the hustle and the bustle and everything in life. Even if it's just 5 minutes a day, I think that prioritizing yourself to do that daily can make a huge difference, right? And it doesn't mean that you don't need support, from a counselor or from a coach or from a psychiatrist or healthcare worker, but you are doing your part and it can really help with your overall well-being. I was part of a research study, the Harmony research study, which we did it for 4 years as an NIH grant out of UNC Chapel Hill. And we focused on African-American women who dealt with stress. And we wanted to see what effects nutrition and exercise and mindfulness had on these women and cardiometabolic disorders. What I found as the nutritional health coach of a group, the feedback that I got from the ladies was just that having that space where we met weekly, allowed them to, one, be a part of a community, right, that had like-mindedness. So we're all trying to work on our health. There is no judgment. There's no, oh, you messed up today or you didn't get it right today. But instead, it was more of a support, right? There were oftentimes women would share ideas like, oh, I had that issue to come up and this is how I dealt with it. But just that exchange, right, help them to be able to, even if they didn't do every single thing that we recommended, latch onto one thing, and the ladies saw improvement in their overall health. So likewise, just not trying to do so many different things. Just find one healthy thing that you're going to focus on, create a new habit, and then build from it.
Right. And that accountability factor helps a lot too. I know it helps me.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Someone is looking for you. Someone is asking
Exactly.
questions, and just that in of itself saying, okay, I got to show up. Let me.
Exactly. Thank you so much. Now I want to move on to our own Minister Freeman. Thank you for joining us today. So most of us, women and men, often juggle multiple roles as parents, caregivers. We juggle our careers, etc. How can lifestyle changes like time management and self-care practices reduce or prevent the onset of depression or anxiety?
Thanks, Miranda. That's all. That is actually a great question. I was laughing and I'm the one that got it. It's kind of funny, kind of ironic, but it's always an honor to be before Raleigh Hills Christian Center, and it's always an honor to be on this panel of distinguished guests. Time management and self-care. Two-part question, but start with time management. And I think actually my colleagues have actually already hit on it several times. Prioritizing is important. I can't stress it enough, especially because you're juggling so many different things. You're juggling, being a parent, being a sibling, being a pastor, being a career person. So you're managing in your career. So everything is there, and it needs to have some kind of order. And it's great because God has got an order. So we start taking on His personality traits. So we start putting things in order, at least trying to order our lives. Right. And I tell people, you cannot control time, you cannot control the things that come at you that you don't know about, but you can try to manage the ones that you know are on their way. So, and that gives you a sense of, I don't give you a sense of control, but it actually, the more you manage, the better you feel and the better you are. It reduces stress, it reduces anxiety. You are better prepared for what's coming. And actually you can always look at it, and sometimes you can see that you've already over-committed, and something needs to be delegated to someone else. So that's actually going to lighten your load, and it may actually, help that other person, and they might have to do something with it. But also too, it allows you to look at the schedule, look at what's coming, and be better prepared. And I tell people all the time, there are so many different scheduling tools that we can use. We carry our phones around constantly, so that is one. And if we wanted to go back old school, we can actually get out a calendar and write it down, whatever it takes for you to manage your life and manage the parts of your life that you can manage. I would say do that. And to my colleague's point, it doesn't have to be a perfect schedule, because sometimes actually making a schedule can be stressful. It's not set in stone. It is actually something to help you order your life. Leave some room for the unexpected. And if something happens unexpected, then you know what, you just roll with it. So that's a good part of scheduling. And don't forget also in all of that, as one of my colleagues said, don't forget to take a break for yourself. So you're managing all these other things in there. Don't forget to manage you. You need to take some time away. And sometimes you have to tell people, sometimes you're looking at a schedule, you actually have to say the word no. So learn that no is not a bad word at times. No is sometimes something that actually helps you, and it helps them, because if you're overcommitted, you can't do your best on everything. And so you basically haven't committed to something that you're not going to be able to do your best on anyway, are going to give, I won't say substandard work, but not your best work to that project or to that idea or task. So it's actually beneficial on both sides. And for self-care, self-care is important in the sense that, because we're talking about yourself and ourselves, a lot of times, whether you're a professional in the mental wellness, or you're a professional in spiritual wellness, or even a professional in physical wellness, a lot of times we're so focused on helping others that we forget that, in the process of helping others, you have to take care of yourself so that you continue to be able to help others. Because you can't get to a point where your cup is so empty, you are no longer able to pour into someone else and help fill them up. So, and I know I'm repeating what my colleague just said, physical health is important, exercise important, eating right. And none of these are eating perfect. None of these are being perfect about, but actually just trying to eat better. Sometimes when you're rushing around, at least I think I'm guilty of it. A lot of times when you're rushing on everything, you're not going to make the best dietary choices, because you're going to be grabbing something on the run, on the way, something that you didn't plan, something you didn't prepare, and probably something that's not really good for you. So try to avoid that whenever you can. Again, that goes back to planning. And again, take time for yourself. We have to take time for ourselves. And I think I said it before, even Jesus, perfect Son of God, got away. He took time to get away from all the stuff that was going on, just to regroup and gather himself. And if Jesus had to do it, then it's probably a good idea for us to do it for ourselves. So remember that. Don't forget that in all of helping others and all of doing stuff for others, don't forget to help and do for you as well.
Exactly. That's awesome. And the thing that comes to my mind as I hear what everybody is saying is that, we are a three-part being, mind, body, spirit. We have to take care of all these aspects of ourselves. And it's a part of our stewardship over our bodies, So as a part of our stewardship over our bodies, our self-care is very important. Is important to have your physical care and to take care of your mind, what you think, what you read, what you look at. All those parts of ourselves make up us, and so, and Christ is in us. So we are important. So if we ever think that we're not important, we just need to think about that by itself. Christ in us, makes us important. It makes it so. So now I'm going to move on to Reverend Williams. So, hi, Reverend Williams. Thank you for being with us tonight and for your willingness to share your mental health story. So, I would like you to take us back to that day in 2018 when your life was in the balance. Tell us a bit about the events that got you in that dark place, what that day of reckoning was like, what you were thinking, and maybe what you did that day, how the day ended.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity to be on the panel and to be able to share my story. When we go back to September 2018, I was actually 20 years old. And that day I'm sitting there, I'm wondering, does anyone truly care about me? Does anyone, if I was to leave this planet today, who would miss me? Who would come looking for me? And, in my mind, I'm sitting there thinking, there's not a single soul that's going to miss me. There's not a single soul that's going to come and look for me, because I'm just the person that everyone eventually replaces. And that's what I always thought. I always felt like I was the person that everyone eventually forget about, leave, and never think about again. And so, I'm 20 years old. I'm trying to attend college. At this time, I'm doing hybrid. So I'm online and I'm in classes 2 days a week. Online the other 3 days. I'm working a full-time job doing security, and I'm working 70 hours a week. I'm trying to maintain a social life, a relationship at the time. I was trying to continue volunteering in the church as someone that worked behind the scenes doing the production. And it was just a lot going on, but I'm also dealing with the anniversary of the death of one of my good friends that died from accidental OD. And at the same time, the following month is the anniversary of when my grandfather had passed away. So, it's a lot going on. Like at that point in 2018, it's the 8th year anniversary. It's coming up on the 8th year anniversary of my grandfather passing away. So there's a lot going on. And I'm just sitting here like, what do I do? What do I do? And me being selfish, the answer was, let's end it all. And that attempt, it literally, that night, it was a Saturday night. And that attempt was something that that should have been successful, but by the grace of God, it was not successful. And because it was not successful on the first try, I did not try for a second time, because I wasn't about to play. I wasn't about to see if I got lucky and end up in trying to do it a second time and realize I wasn't lucky. So I ended up just crying myself to sleep that night, going to church the very next morning, and I'm being asked by the people at the church, hey, you look horrible. What's going on? I'm letting them know what's going on, like what I tried to do the night before. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, this is the normal conversation. They're not going to go for it anymore. They're not going to try to escalate it. And, you know, ultimately, I was wrong. And a lot of people that know me will be the first to tell you, I have never been more happier to be wrong. I don't like being wrong, but in that moment, I was happy to be wrong, knowing that over the next few days they was going to reach out to me so that they could ask me what was going on even more, and so that they could get me the help that I so deserved and that I needed.
Right. That's amazing. So I know in my conversations with you, you mentioned that this friend from your church took you to get so we know that there's often a stigma surrounding mental health, and just talk a little bit about when this person, asked to take you for help. Was that stigma coming up in the back of your mind? What were you thinking,
Yeah, that stigma was still coming up because when we think about it, especially for our young man, we have society has created the stigma of don't speak about your emotions, don't talk about your emotions. If you talk about your emotions, if you show your emotions, you are weak, you are less than a man. So to me, that was something that I always lived by. I felt like I needed to be this big, tough guy that needed to walk up with his head held high no matter what was going on. So when this individual offered, really didn't like it really like, when we look at it, it was offered, but it wasn't offered because at the same time it's like, hey, we can take you to the hospital, but at the same time it's like, we're taking you to the hospital. Which
you
one
were
do you want to
voluntold.
go to? Yeah, which one do you want to go to? You want to go to the one close to home, or you want to go to the one that's further out? And so I had to really, and in this moment, I'm thinking to myself, I don't want to go because if I go and I run and I go into this hospital, and there's somebody that I know, and they ask me what's going on with me, and I tell them that I don't want to be on this earth anymore, that I'm at a crossroads with my life. What are they going to think about me? And so that stigma, it played a role in my mind, and it played a role in it. But then I had to realize it's better to get the help than to not get the help, because what other people think about you and what other people say about you is not going to define who you are. Their opinions of you is just what they see on the outside, or it may be a reflection of how they feel about themselves. So in order for me to continue to work as a security officer and make sure that I protected the people that I was contracted to protect, but to also protect these young adults in this church and these families, I got to make sure I'm in the right mind space. Because if I don't care about myself, who's to say that I care about them? So I had to put that stigma to the side, and I had to, as my grandma said, I had to swallow my pride and say, yes, let's go get that help.
Right. And there's another thing that I love what you said when I had a conversation with you. When I asked you if you could go back, during that time, and is there anything that you would have done differently? One of the things that you said, I would give myself permission to rest without needing to earn it. That was powerful. Because a lot of times people don't give themselves permission to do some basic things that they need to do for themselves. You would not, you would give yourself permission to do something as basic as rest. That was just amazing to me. So, you shared that you had a moment when you attempted self-harm. So what did that moment teach you about yourself and your journey?
When it comes to me, it taught me that I didn't give myself the okay to rest. I felt like I needed to go at 100 miles per hour every single day. But I also realized that the way I was thinking, the way I was acting, it was selfish. I had to learn to say no to not just people that I was friends with, or not just to the church,
Right.
but I had to say no to myself. If I wanted to go out and do things, I had to learn to say no. To no, you need to rest. But the job is saying that I can work 16 hours. No, you need to rest.
Right. Right.
And so it was those type of things, like understanding, like I had to say no, but also understanding that a lot of the things that I was carrying they were labels that other people had
Mm-hmm.
put on me from the moment that I was born, and I just felt like that's who I was, and I had to give myself permission.
Right.
And I had to tell myself, you are not these labels. You
Right.
have the permission to shed these labels and live your authentic lifestyle.
And you know, another thing that you had mentioned when we had a conversation, you said you ignored your limits, you buried your pain, and you told yourself lies about your own worth. And I think that a lot of that is so true with a lot of us when we go through anxiety or thoughts of hurting ourselves or something like that. And um but then you said something else powerful, because you were going through a lot, but you said you just wanted your pain to stop, the pain of the experience. But that pain often sometimes looks to us like it's everything, like that pain is everything. And we forget that the pain passes, and in that moment may not feel like it's going to pass. So my other question is, um how has your relationship with God and your faith helped you to maintain your mental and emotional balance today? Are there any practices that you use regularly to help you maintain that balance?
When we're looking at my relationship with God and my faith, um, definitely being able to get back into the scripture and I just remember, I I was always drawn to one scripture, but I could never read it because I just didn't believe it at the time.
Mhm.
And that scripture is Psalm 119 verse 105, and it says, you are a light unto my feet and a lamp unto my path. And I had to I I realized as I've gotten older, I had to go through in order to grow through
Right.
what I went through. And when we're looking at the way that at the things I do now, those scriptures are I this is a scripture that I have not only built myself on, but it has also helped me inspire others. And it's one of the main thing. It's the main scripture behind what I do to help others
Right.
as well. But being able to go through something as strong as my mental health battle, especially being diagnosed with major depression,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and being told like it does not, like my depression did not look normal to the other major depressions that they had ever came across.
Right.
It allows me to tell, it allows me to share my story, but it also allows me to share with others. Just because you went through this does not mean that the next person that goes through this, it's not going to look the same.
Right.
Everyone's path, everyone's struggle with depression, whether it's minor, mild, or chronic depression, it's going to look different. But
Right.
us as a society, it has helped me understand that us as a society, we have to get out of the mindset of saying, suck it up, buttercup, and move on. But
Mm-hmm.
we also have to
Right.
we have to get to the point where we are not so quick to speak, and we have to just sometimes be that listening ear,
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes that's all a person that's struggling with depression or anxiety. That's all that they want. They want somebody that's going to listen to them and not someone that's going to judge them because of what they are going through.
Right. People often they want to be heard. They want to know that you see them and that you care. So you're an author and an author success coach now. How do you think creativity, especially writing, plays a role in healing? And how would you encourage others to tap into that?
So yeah, that's definitely a great question. Writing allows you to get these emotions, these built up emotions, whether it's sadness, anger, whatever, even love. It helps you get all of this emotion out. The emotions that we tend to suppress because we're afraid of being judged about. When we're writing it down, we're writing from a place of consciousness, but also allowing our subconscious and our conscious mind to work in harmony to get these emotions out so that we understand what it is that we feel. And when we allow this creativity to go through, when we allow this creativity to flow through us, maybe you're writing something that doesn't need to go out to the world, but write it out, read it over, and when you're ready to let it go, either throw it away, or if you are old enough and can do it safely, burn it.
Right.
Let those emotions go. Let those feelings go. And then, as a writer, as a realistic fiction writer, we are able to take the characteristics that we have, that another person that we may know have, the emotions. We're able to create a main character, so the protagonist, the antagonist, the supporting character with an arc. What is the arc? Something that maybe we've went through or something that somebody may go through in their lifetime, and it allows them. And when someone finally picks up this book and they read it, the reader can be at the center because they are like, this is something that I struggle with, or I know someone that has went through this. This is how I feel. How did they know? Why does it feel like I am this character? Why can I relate to this character so much? So creativity gives us that outlet, that even if we don't want to speak it, we can write it, whether it's in a book, a song, poetry, or we can draw it or paint it.
Right. And so when you were going through your mental health crisis, did anybody at any point out that, I mean, before the day when you walked in and the person at your church said, man, you look bad or something, did anybody say anything to you, notice anything different, say anything about your behavior?
I think the only person that actually stated something was my grandmother. And because that's who raised me. So she knew my daily routine. But she she finally realized, like, because ultimately I dropped out of college, but she realized I wasn't going to college. Like, I wasn't driving to college. If I was getting off work and I was supposed to be at college, I was at home. I'm at home, I'm sleeping until it's time for me to go back to work. And also she realized my appetite had left. So if I was eating anything, I was eating what most broke college students eat, ramen noodles. I was eating that, and I was only eating that. And I wasn't drinking a lot of water. I was drinking caffeine so I could stay on the move. And then I would drink so much caffeine until I crashed so that I could sleep, get back up, go back to work, and do this all over again. And she just realized, like, I had picked up a lot of bad habits. Like, I had started picking up like nicotine and stuff like that. So she just realized, like, hey, this is not good for you. We got to get you away from this. And she asked me, she's like, what's going on? And I just wouldn't tell her that I'm exhausted. I don't want to be here anymore. So but she was the first one to notice.
Right. That's amazing. So I want to quickly, if we could, go back up here, and I just want to, Dr. Day, I want to go back to you for a second. So as we journey through life, and many people encounter transitions such as puberty, pregnancy, even menopause and andropause, these transitions can have an impact on our mental health. So how do hormonal fluctuations during life transitions, such as puberty, pregnancy, and andropause, impact the mental health of adolescents, men and women, and how can lifestyle choices help mitigate these?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I guess if you were to think back with your own life, right? And so you think back to, we have 3 kids. So, the baby stayed, and, them stabilizing and getting used to a routine, sleeping more. The brain development is the most during this time frame. And then once, there seems to, you've gotten a routine with them as they're young kids, and, they start changing a little bit during that pre-adolescent, that middle school state, right? Hormones are changing, testosterone, estrogen, their body is doing all these changes, and you may notice them being more irritable. They may be withdrawn, their appetite changes, right? Oh my goodness, now they're eating twice as much as they used to eat, right? So that's just normal. That is just normal physiology. The body is changing. And when you go to adulthood, and you think about skipping to, perimenopause or menopause, or those phases where now, your appetite is definitely, maybe changing. You're hot, you may have your hot flashes, all because hormone changes are happening, because we're in another phase, and you're not, the reproductive phase has gone away. You're not able to, have kids and things like that. So just the normal physiology in these different stages can just bring about change, right? So if you are able to maintain just a simple routine, it can help during these unstable times, which is just a normal part of life. So again, circling back to prioritizing yourself, right? And I always like to recommend, try to start your day focusing on you some kind of way. Give yourself 15 minutes, right? 15 minutes when you get up. If you say a prayer, if you read a scripture, if you walk for 10 minutes, right? If you sit down and drink, some people like warm lemon water, if it's, some chai tea or whatever, and just give yourself that time to focus on you. Because, once the day starts with all that's happening, in addition to your body going through all of these different changes, you're able to maintain some type of stability, and it won't last always, just like the infancy state didn't last always, right? The baby finally started sleeping through the night. Middle school didn't last always. They made it to high school. Okay, they're a little bit better. Oh, something else is going on. But then they got through that, right? So it won't last always. But just having some simple routine can help you during those different stages of life.
Wow, that is awesome. So let's move on to Minister Freeman again real quick. So Minister Freeman, what's your perspective on how we might foster an environment where mental health discussions are normalized in our churches, homes, schools, workplaces, and individuals feel more empowered to seek help? We need to unmute.
That's a good question. Okay, thank you Thank you all. I'm sorry, I was didn't even realize that. I forgot. That's a good question again. But one of the ways that we can talk about mental health or normalize mental health is to continue to talk about it. It's gotten better. I think we've gotten more accustomed to hearing. We've gotten accustomed to hearing ourselves, hearing the words mental health, hearing discussions about mental health. And because it's become more normalized, we talk about it more. But we have to continue, keep that going, keep that discussion going. So whenever mental health is mentioned, along with spiritual health and physical health, we continue to talk about it like the whole person.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe sometimes we have to change the words depending on who we're talking to. And instead of mental health, we use mental fitness, or we may use mental wellness. I think sometimes the medical personnel, I think people in the hospital, sometimes when they're thinking of your physical well-being, their physical wellness. So if you add mental wellness to that, and just because that's another part of the person, like you said, we are a triune being. So I think if we can continue the discussion, continue to add it to the conversations that we're already having. So it's not like set aside, like, spiritual health is this, spiritual wellness is this, it's prayer, it's church attendance, physical health is this, exercise and everything. Mental wellness is this, and it's taking time for yourself. So I think that's one of the ways we can normalize and to others feel more comfortable mentioning it. Like my brother shared what he was going through, and many of us may have been there, but many of us may not have noticed that that's what was going on. Like, we're in a crisis situation, or we're in a situation where we're dealing with anxiety, but to us, it's just like, I don't know what this is. I'm gonna just press through and go on. And so, we just continue the discussion and continue putting out the information and continue being open. So when someone says it, someone says something about it, hey, I'm feeling out of, I don't use the term out of sorts lately. We are more attuned to hearing and addressing what they're going through. And like we do any other time with any of our other friends when they're feeling whatever, angry, upset, or whatever. So yes, we just continue to make it part of our normal conversation.
Right. Kind of make it a part of who we are, because it is a part of who we are. Just make it a part of who we are so that we talk about it just like we talk about anything else. We don't have to try to hide it and have secret conversations about mental health, So yes, thank you for that. That is awesome. So I think what we're going to do now is we're going to turn to we want to turn to our audience and see if they have questions, and we want to address any of those questions if they have questions. So Maxine, do we have any questions that anyone has for any of the panelists?
So far, there are no questions. This is a perfect opportunity, everyone, to ask any burning questions, any questions that you just want to be informed about. This is the perfect chance to use the, the comments. Thank you to everyone who's been interacting in the chat. Great feedback as well. So while some folks are thinking about their question and putting it in the chat, I do have a question. And this is for anyone on the panel. What are some long-term effects of untreated anxiety and depression?
Well, I can speak to the physical aspects of a long term. So when your body's under stress and you do have those headaches and palpitations and you get indigestion and nausea and constipation and you have diarrhea and you always having an upset stomach and then you get achy in your joints, that alone, because some psychological things like anxiety is mental, but we do know that what's in our mind, our body will follow. So plenty of times, and I'm not giving no kind of, like when people have a diagnosis of fibromyalgia, it's autoimmune and it's real. But sometimes when doctors can't diagnose you with that right away, a lot of those symptoms mimic like anxiety. Like you have the aches, you have the GI problems. Sometimes people get misdiagnosed with Crohn's and irritable bowel syndrome because they have stress and anxiety. So sometimes what happens is people become a revolving door in a hospital system where In a hospital, people label them as frequent flyers, but sometimes those people really do suffer from these manifestations of these symptoms, and sometimes it's not really always physical as much as it is psychological. And maybe Danielle can speak to that on the psychological aspect. But when you keep on having chronic anxiety, cardiovascular is the number one cause of death, and it is also induced by stress. So is high blood pressure. Some people have it genetically, but some people don't. And what can exacerbate hypertension, which is high blood pressure, is a whole lot of stress. So physically, it can lead you into chronic conditions, and then you'll become like a heart patient or something like that. But it's just best to try to manage it, and then know your body. Don't compare your symptoms to other people, because we're all individual and we all have different amounts of trauma, and we have different fingerprints for a reason. So we all are different, and listen to your body when you start having physical symptoms, and be specific, because if you go in there vague, the doctor, is really hard for them to really, because there's so many other things out there that's under the autoimmune title itself that mimic some of these anxiety physical symptoms. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Tasha. I do want to go to Danielle, because we know that the mental health stigma may not go away immediately or completely. And it's important that we somehow get to the place where we can choose our well-being and our future and our loved ones over the stigma. So maybe it would help someone to make that choice if they can grasp the toll of not getting the help that they need. And so, Danielle, for a second, if you could tell us, like, what are go over some of the long-term effects of untreated anxiety and depression, and particularly among adolescents and men and women. How can these experiences with untreated mental illness shape their future?
Yes, and it's a great question. So thank you for asking that. So with mental health issues or illnesses that go untreated for long periods of time, it could start out mild, but because it's untreated, it can start out to be moderate to severity, to the point where you're having hospitalization. You're now needing medication. Like I said earlier, impacting your daily functioning. You're having to take time off of work. You can't work. The responsibilities that you have within your family, you're not able to engage in that. It's having a huge impact on you. So when it's impacting your daily functioning, you're sleeping. So a lot of times you want to be careful with sleep, because sometimes I'll hear in my sessions, oh, I've gotten 11, 12 hours of sleep. So we think that's great that you're rested, but that could be a sign of depression. You don't want to deal with what's going on in real time. So I'm sleeping it away because I don't want to deal. So long-term effects, like I said, is you can take it from the beginning stages of it being a mild issue into something being moderate, being severe, hospitalization, needing medication, which there's nothing wrong with that, but it being untreated and not having an opportunity to get the help as it's happening can increase the need of seeking medical or mental health, or having both those things going on at the same time. And we all know when we have those things going on at the same time, it doesn't allow us to be with our family and friends and our loved ones. It doesn't allow us to work. It doesn't allow us to be present. We miss time at church. We miss time in our organizations and other things that we are involved in. So with it being untreated for a long period of time, we know it's going to affect your lifestyle, where you are within your family, your obligations, and your commitments. So it's really best is, hey, you think something's not right with you. There's nothing wrong with getting help. We want to make sure we're always checking in with our primary care provider, because in a sense, it could be something medical that's going on that has now turned mental health, or mental health now turned medical. So we definitely want to reach out when we need to seek professional help and check up on what's going on with our body and what's going on with our mind.
Awesome. So Minister Freeman, I want to turn to you one more time. So faith and spirituality can play a vital role in supporting mental health. How does spiritual alignment play a role in a person's mental health and implementing lifestyle changes? Unmute.
Okay, that's a good question as well. You all, I keep putting myself on mute. I keep thinking you're going to hear background noise, so I apologize. But I liken spiritual alignment to like an alignment in a vehicle. Because we can talk about, spiritual alignment and how it affects you spiritually. But a lot of times if your car's out of line, it's also going to affect your gas mileage, or it may affect your tires, because it spills over into other areas. If you're out of line spiritually, it's going to affect your physical well-being, and it's going to affect your mental well-being as well. You have to remember that prayer is a good way to help reduce stress. It's a help to manage your anxiety, because you surrender yourself to a being, to God, and he has everything under his control, and feeling like you no longer have to have everything under control and surrendering to someone that has a greater power is actually a relief, can be a relief. I'll say it that way. So it can be a relief.
Mm-hmm.
It can be a way to relieve stress. And when people talk about meditation, I'm not necessarily talking about, I'm not talking about crystals or anything like that.
Right.
I think about meditation as the renewing of your mind. And I liken it to like a room. Sometimes we have to, when we go in to redo a room, sometimes it's just basically putting the room in order. Some things have been moved or not aside, or sometimes it's reordering the room. We just want to change because we're tired of it looking that way. Our mind is that way too. Sometimes we have to reorder our thoughts, and sometimes we have to change our thoughts, throw out some old stuff, put in some new ones. Right. And sometimes just because we haven't gone through that process in a while, I liken it to dusting. And I tell people it's this way. When you dust the things in your room, you basically bring back the brilliance, because when they're dusty, they're dull, and they can't function. They don't have the brilliance. They don't have the shine that they would have. And when your mind hasn't been renewed, or your thoughts haven't been refreshed, structured and ordered, you kind of get dusty. You're not as functional as you would be. Right. So if you go through and clear out your thoughts, redo your thoughts, reorder your thoughts, it kind of brings back your brilliance, and you can actually function on a higher level. So that's one of the ways I think spiritual alignment plays a role in mental and improving lifestyle changes. And like my sister said, it's going to spill over. I mean, we sometimes, like a health issue can spill over into a mental issue. Mm-hmm. When you're not aligned spiritually, you start letting other stuff in. And if we needed a biblical example, I was going to give you one anyway. But if we were thinking about a biblical example, I would think about David. He probably never realized that he was always kind of like a man that was comfortable liking women, but he probably never realized that once he got out of spiritual alignment, he went even further than even he probably may have believed that he would have gone. And he not only became a adulterer, he became a murderer. He hid what he'd done. So, and he was still the king. So all because he got out of spiritual alignment, he probably went further than he probably ever thought that he would. Mm-hmm. So that's how I liken being spiritually aligned. So it's important to stay spiritually aligned. It's important to have a prayer life. And like she said, get up in the morning and do 15 minutes and take 15 minutes yourself. And I tell people, if you're going to take 15, if you're going to get up in the morning, one of the first people I think you should talk to is the Lord. If you don't, good gracious, at least get up in 15 minutes and at least prepare for your day. So try to get something routine in place so that you can help make you a better person. So.
Right. And when you were speaking of meditation, the other thing that comes to my mind, because this is what I do, it's just quietness. Sometimes I'm in quietness with myself, with God, or with the scripture, and I'm just being present with it, But the other thing that came to my mind about spiritual alignment is being out of alignment, being misaligned, can often make people feel guilty and ashamed, and all that can lead into all these other issues with depression and all this kind of stuff, So being out of alignment can have consequences and affect you in other areas. So
I'm sorry, Miranda, we do have 2 questions in the chat.
Oh, great. Okay.
So we can just address them, and then we can just you can piggyback, or we can put it back onto you to ask the panel. Sister Waterman asked, is there a lifestyle or mental health support group or ministry that's open for someone to join?
Well, I declare the Healthy Lifestyles Ministry, the Mental Wellness Ministry.
Yes.
I think both of those are good starts. I mean, you can email the Healthy Lifestyles Ministry at health@rncconline.org, or you can email mental wellness. Is it mental wellness at rncconline.org?
Yes.
Or you can get on our Facebook page, and we're having discussions there. We're sharing thoughts, recipes, information that we learn. But you can reach out to either one of our ministries,
or both, right?
Join right, both. Exactly, or both. Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Because like I mentioned earlier about the community and being having accountability partners with people that are trying to do the exact same things you're doing. And for example, like the Healthy Lifestyle Ministry has started doing the morning walks on every first and third Saturday, which is great because not only does it push you to get out and get moving in nature, getting that sunlight, that vitamin D, which also can help with your mental health. But it also like allows you time to fellowship with one another, where you may not be able to do this in church, but this is another time for you to connect with others. And just that connection can also, prevent you feeling alone or isolated, and those thoughts are rolling, and you're thinking it's worse. This is the worst possible thing ever. But when you're connecting with others, you realize like, oh my goodness, they went through something similar and they made it through. So, okay. So you're encouraged. So absolutely join the Healthy Lifestyle Ministry, join the mental health ministry, join both.
and the Healthy Lifestyles Ministry on the first and third Saturday is we walk sometimes, but then sometimes we have fitness. We have a fitness instructor that is a part of our ministry that leads classes at the park as well. So we do a combination of things. It's just all about fitness. It's about socializing, getting with others, having accountability partners, and that really, and just having that supportive environment.
If I can jump in real quickly, as far as the mental wellness, you can also look up online through Google, NAMI, which stands for the National Alliance on Mental Health, on Mental Illness. They have support groups. They actually have a walk group that I'm participating in next on the 17th at 9 a.m. to kind of join to show an observance of May being Mental Wellness Month. But NAMI, we will put that in the chat. Their phone number is 919-848-4490. So that's another way to see what else you can do as far as outside of church, but you want to do other as well, and get a listing for that as well.
Thanks, Danielle. That's great.
And one more question.
And I want to jump in really fast. It's Ms. Danielle, she definitely took one from me with NAMI. We'll mention another one. It's the AFSP. It's the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. And I'm actually very active with them. You can actually go online, and so they are open. They have different chapters for states and counties that you can reach out to, get involved with, and they are always open to hearing your story. And they normally have a mental health walk every so many months, along with the suicide prevention walk every September. So, but there, you can just go online and look up AFSP or American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, and they'll pop right up.
Okay, awesome. Did you have another question, Maxine?
Yes, someone asked, who's the leader of the mental health ministry?
Miss Danielle Oates, right there.
Yes, we are. Yes, I'm the leader at RNCC as far as the mental wellness ministry, where I have our tiers is Dr. Jarvis as well, supported by volunteers in the mental wellness ministry.
And they can be reached at mentalwellness@rncconline.org. Any other questions?
Yeah, there's another question, but I probably need a little bit more clarity. It says the ministry isn't only in group settings, so I'm not sure if she's referring to healthy lifestyles or just in dealing with some mental challenges. Is it like individual, like is there an opportunity to do some individual ministry?
And we're not sure if they're referring to as a
Mhm.
volunteer or like individual ministry. If you want individual ministry, then you could. I mean, Danielle is a counselor. Michael Toomey is a counselor. I mean, you could reach out to one of them. You could also reach out to the mental wellness ministry. And now the mental wellness ministry can provide you with resources, but you would have to get individual counseling from one of the resources on, that they provide, whether with them, if they're a part of a ministry outside of the church, or with one of the resources that they provide. But most of the ministry that we tend to do is group in the Healthy Lifestyles ministry, and then mental wellness. You guys do group as well, right? For the ministry itself.
Yes.
And provide, right. Mm-hmm.
So we have specific events. So coming up next Wednesday, we have the Teen Huddle, where any teen, even outside of RNCC, can join in with that. That starts at 7 p.m. next Wednesday on the 14th. We do special things for the holidays, hope for the holidays there at the church. So there's different events as every year we plan out what we're doing for the upcoming year. And sometimes we join in with other ministries if ask for our participation and our support.
Yeah, so for the church, we do, most of it is group type of activities to support people, and then resources for more individual type assistance. If they clarify their question and need something else, let us know.
I was going to say, if they didn't clarify their question and they still wanted more information, they can always approach one of us, either Danielle or Miranda or myself, and we can
just email us. You
Right.
you can just email us. health@rncconline.org, and even if it's not for the Healthy Lifestyles Ministry, we still can forward it to Danielle.
Right.
I don't see any more questions in the comment section or chat.
Okay, so if we don't have any more questions, then we're going to, let me see if I have anything else for a special, any of our panelists here. Okay. We're going to do one more, and then we're going to wind this down. So Reverend Williams, so if you could give just one piece of advice to someone who's struggling mentally or emotionally, or even having, suicidal thoughts, what would you say to them?
I would definitely say, so I would definitely tell them, like, hey, so for that person that's struggling with depression or suicidal ideation, I'm definitely tell them, like, it's okay to let your emotions out. Don't hold it in, don't bottle it up, because once you bottle it, think about it like this. If you buy a Coke, 2 liter, and you shake it up, and you constantly shake it up, and then eventually you open it up, what happens? It explodes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you're bottling up your emotions, it's the exact same way.
Right.
So my advice to them is definitely don't be afraid to speak up. Find someone that you trust and tell them what it is that you're going through. And if they see it as a life-threatening situation, do not get mad at them when they get the help that they feel that you deserve, because ultimately it will help in the long run. So
And in the words of the award-winning author, don't suffer in silence. Your life matters. There is no shame in saying, I need help. Asking for help isn't weakness, it's courage. Even when it feels like no one sees you, I promise you, your story is not over. Hold on, talk to someone. You are not alone. And if we don't have any further questions, I'm going to kind of reiterate our contact information for those who need it, and we will close things out. So again, if you are experiencing a mental health crisis or simply need to talk to someone about a mental health challenge, we have put some resources in the comments, and you can also reach out to the Healthy Lifestyles Ministry on their Facebook page, or you may email us at health@rncconline.org, or you can reach out to the Mental Health Ministry at mental wellness@rncconline.org with your contact information, and someone will definitely connect with you. And I want to thank you all, our panelists, for joining us tonight. It's been an awesome time chatting with you and hearing what you have to say and enriching our lives by helping us to learn more about how to be mentally fit, because that's really what it's all about. And thank you to all of you, our audience, for making time to learn more about guarding your mental health and staying mentally fit. And a big thank you to the Healthy Lifestyles cheerleaders, Maxine Stewart and Katina Smith, and the entire Healthy Lifestyles team, as well as our amazing RNCC events, audio, visual, and creative team who work tirelessly behind the scenes. And a hearty thank you to the mental wellness team for collaborating with us. And if there are no questions, did anyone have anything else they want to say or add until before we sign off in a few?
I just got one last thing to add, and it was something that that someone told me at church. No one thinks about you more than you think about yourself. So those mistakes that you make, the labels that you give yourself, no one is going to remember that. You will probably think about those things for the rest of your life, but I promise no one else is going to think about those things. So don't sit there and think, oh, they're going to hate me because of this. Because when we think about ourselves so much and the things that we do and the things that we don't do, we create those false situations, which can make our anxiety or our depression or our hypertension. Those false situations can make those things so much more worse than what they need to be. So with that, I just want to say thank you.
And I think that's the thing about anxiety too, is that anxiety really is so future oriented. You know, it's looking ahead at something and what it might be, what it could be. And we're creating a picture of something that a lot of times doesn't even exist. It's somewhere out there and it may never happen. But because we keep going over it in our heads and creating like this running story about it, it just makes us build stress and anxiety in our lives. That's a lot of times it's just unwarranted.
If it's okay, Miranda, I would like to add as well, like comparison and expectations, those things live in anxiety and depression. So what you're sharing is absolutely correct and things that we need to look out for. You can also ruminate in the past, comparing yourself to others, comparing yourself to things you should have did, or false expectations that no one is putting on you, you're putting on yourself, even though you're doing well in life or well at a particular skill or developing yourself. So what you're saying is spot on, and I appreciate Reverend Deshaun bringing that up, because those things that people think about, they don't, sometimes they think they have to look a certain way, and it's important that we think about, we can be stuck in the future and stuck in the past.
Exactly, and it's really important for us to prioritize ourselves, and to choose. We just have to get to the place where we're choosing ourselves, and we're choosing our life, and we're choosing our loved ones, and the future that God has for us over something that's really, the things that we go through, they're temporary. Everything passes. There's nothing that doesn't. Everything passes, no matter how bad it feels in the moment. Everything passes, you know, and so we don't need to make permanent decisions based on a temporary situation that will pass. It will pass. Anything else, anybody? Any last comments? Anything anyone wants to say? Reverend Deshaun, nothing?
You know, I just, since you called me out,
I knew there was something.
I look, I ain't got the title of reverend for no reason. I tell people I can talk, but I'm gonna piggyback off of what Minister Freeman said earlier. It is okay to say no. So many people think that no is a bad word. I'm one of those people. I will mess with you, be like, did you just tell me no? But at the end of the day, sometimes you got to say no because it may not align with you spiritually, mentally, physically, but also it's only so much that you can allow yourself. You can't pour from an empty cup.
Mm-hmm.
And if you try to pour from an empty cup, what do you get? You get nothing but air. And just like a car needs gas eventually, if you don't fill up that car with gas, you're going to run out and you're going to be left on side the road. So do not allow yourself of energy out of blessings, and do not let your cup run empty to where all you can give is the absolute bare minimum to yourself and to everyone else. And remember, it is not wrong, it is not selfish to love yourself.
Amen.
But love yourself selflessly, but it's okay to be selfish with your time because not everyone out there deserves it.
Good.
Amen. That is a good place to end this. And thank you all for joining us and for taking the time to be on this panel and to share your thoughts and your experiences with all our listeners tonight. It's been a great experience. And until next time, everyone have a wonderful night. Thank you for joining us, and reach out if you need to. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good night. Bye.